Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar hosted by the International Society for the Prevention of Child Abuse and Neglect. We are trying to connect with a couple of our speakers, but I think that we will begin with our first speaker, Dora. Dora, are you ready now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, let me do the introduction. Thank you. So I'd like to thank the audience for joining us today, and thank you for all you're doing during this time to help children. Already in 2020, more than 10,000 refugees and asylum seekers have arrived in Greece, including almost 4,700 unaccompanied children. These children are in need of special protection against the multiple dangers they face along their journey, including violence, sexual abuse, human trafficking, and exploitation. In Greece, an alarmingly large number of unaccompanied children go missing from reception and care facilities, and while this is known by authorities, few cases are reported. The United Nations Refugee Agency in Greece, or UNHCR, and Smile of the Child, an NGO and ISPCAN country partner, have partnered on the use of a national reporting mechanism for missing children by all authorities and actors working with these children. In our webinar today, Theodora Chovili of UNHCR Greece and Yanis Athanasopoulos and Aggie Zanako of Smile of the Child will give an overview of the situation of these children, present a model for dealing with cases of missing children and limiting risk of trafficking and exploitation, and give highlights of their guidance note for reporting missing refugee and migrant children, which was created jointly by the two organizations and distributed broadly across Greece. Right now, I have everyone on mute to avoid background noise. We welcome you to enter your questions in the questions box throughout the presentation. The presenters will respond to questions and comments at the end as time permits. The recording and slides from the presentation will also be posted on the ISPCAN website for limited time after the webinar. Theodora Chovili is a psychologist with many years of clinical, research, and academic experience in children's psychosocial challenges. She developed a special interest in asylum-seeking and refugee children in 2004 while conducting research into shelters for unaccompanied children on behalf of UNHCR in Greece. Since then, she has held positions with UNHCR and UNICEF in Syria, as well as the International Organization for Migration in Greece. Since December 2015, she has been working with UNHCR Greece, focusing exclusively on child protection. Aggie Zanako is a shift supervisor at the Hot and Helplines for Children operated by Smile of the Child. She is responsible for the operation of the National Helpline for Children, the European Hotline for Missing Children, and the European Helpline for Children and Adolescents. The helplines operate on a 24/7 basis and are staffed by specialized counselors, psychologists, and social workers. Aggie is a clinical health psychologist and certified CBT therapist. Yanis Athanasopoulos is also a shift supervisor for the three helplines for children operated by Smile of the Child. In addition, he manages student interns from universities and colleges for the helplines. Yanis's background is also in clinical psychology, and he is currently training to become a certified CBT therapist. We thank our speakers for joining us today. Now I will turn it over to Dora, who is our first speaker. Just one moment, please.
Thank you, Heather. I hope that you can see my screen.
Yes, please, if you could put it in presentation mode. Thank you.
So thank you very much for the invitation. And also thank you, a big thanks in advance to the Smile of the Child, the colleagues who joined our efforts to protect the migrant and refugee children in Greece, going missing for quite a few years from many of the care arrangements where they are hosted. Let me guide you through this presentation, which gives an overview of the situation of migrant and refugee children in Greece, focusing mainly though on the unaccompanied children, because this is our big challenge. So here is how is the situation in Greece regarding unaccompanied children. We usually receive more than 100 unaccompanied children per month from the Turkey borders with Greece, mainly on the islands of Leros, Samos, Chios, Lesbos, and Kos, where there are the reception and identification centers. And when there is an increase of children arriving in Greece, for the time being, the number of children arriving is moderate, but back in the beginning of the year and in the end of the last year, we had 200 children arriving per month. When we see an increase, then of course there is a decrease of appropriate alternative care placements. And we don't have many of those. You will notice during our presentation. Then we have, of course, an increase of children in the reception and identification centers that I mentioned that exist on the islands. And again, we see that at that point in time, we find many ad hoc solutions for the emergency care of these children in temporary placements. And then again, there is a risk, since we don't have many care arrangements, of children going missing or being homeless or living in informal arrangements in the streets and in the urban settings of Athens and Thessaloniki, the capital and second biggest city in the country. So this is a situation of the unaccompanied and separated children on the islands. As of 19 July 2020, we have more than 1,300 children on the 5 islands, and including the land border of Turkey and Greece, a reception identification center which is at the region called Evros. The children are stuck on the reception and identification centers, sometimes for over a year, despite the legal framework that allows their residence for not more than 25 days. The conditions there are substandard. The centers are overcrowded. Up to 50 children must live together in a container. They have limited access to water, food, wash, and sanitation. Healthcare and security risks exist also. They have serious psychosocial problems manifested in depression, self-harm, and suicidal attempts. And of course, they are at risk of sexual and other kinds of exploitations and abuse. We have more than 4,600 unaccompanied children in total in Greece at this point in time. And we have more than 40,000 migrant and refugee children residing in different care arrangements across Greece, mainly in the big stay accommodation scheme of UNHCR. More than 23,000 are living there. Those 40,000 children are accompanied by their families, their parents. We focus again, I have to stress that we focus again on mostly on the number of unaccompanied children, because this is the most vulnerable group and the group that doesn't have many solutions available for their care. It might seem a small number to you, but for Greece it's a big number, and you will see why. We can explain further. So the protection of unaccompanied children has been given to a number of ministries throughout the years. Very recently, the Ministry of Migration and Asylum is the competent authority, but has limited capacity in terms of care and protection for unaccompanied children. Out of the 4,600 children, 3,100 and more, or approximately 3 children in 4, live outside the formal and long-term care and the child protection system. Almost 1,000 children, 957, are declared homeless or reported to be living in informal and insecure housing arrangements. As I mentioned, in the urban settings of Athens, and the capital, and Thessaloniki, the second city in the country. We have also a number of unaccompanied children in a known location, meaning that we don't know where these children live. They have been registered at some point in time, but then they were lost. We have also a known number of undocumented unaccompanied children. Those children come, they are called the ghosts, and they don't have they haven't been officially detected at the entry points of the country, so somehow they manage to enter the country without being registered, and they end up, of course, in the big cities with no legal documents to prove even their existence. All of them are, of course, at high risk of sexual exploitation, abuse, and trafficking. The formal care now provides for 1,500 places in 57 shelters. Most of them are fortunately of a small size. The foster care is not used as the most appropriate measure as in other countries. We have UNHCR funds a pilot project only for 30 places for unaccompanied children. And since 2018, Greece has the model of supported independent living or semi-independent living, meaning unaccompanied children of 16 years and above living in apartments on their own in small groups. This model has been initiated in 2018, and gradually but steadily it is being scaled up with the assistance of the competent ministries, but also with the support of UNHCR and UNICEF and IOM projects. The ad hoc measures that I mentioned that are put in place every time that the number of children arriving in the country increase are the interim measures of safe zones, distinct areas in camps across Greece. We have 13 safe zones in 13 camps. The classical camps that you know with tents, some of them might have some containers. So in each camp we have 30 unaccompanied children living in a designated area with supervision provided by NGOs 24/7. So 390 places available in safe zones. This is a temporary measure. The children should stay there not longer than 12 weeks. Instead, they may be living there for 8 to 9 months or even a year before being transferred to a proper shelter, an age-appropriate shelter. And we have also, since 2018, when the numbers of children arriving have been steadily increasing, we have also the hotels of IOM. IOM was requested by the government at that point in time to open, to transform hotels into care arrangements for unaccompanied children. Today we have 359 places in 9 hotels. This is one view of the situation, using figures and trying to understand how many places are available for the children arriving in Greece. At the policy level, however, we have also quite a few challenges to deal with. And these refer to the complex legal and institutional framework for child protection, the problems that we have with the guardianship system, and also with the family links assessments regarding separated children. Regarding the guardianship system, we have a very weak system. We have a very good law since 2018, providing for professional guardians, something innovative following international standards, which has not, unfortunately, been yet implemented. We also have limited capacity of the child protection system and the social welfare systems in Greece. a few specialized services for survivors of SGBP, particularly for boys. Quite a few challenges to establish and sustain community-based protection mechanisms. In fact, this concept is still very much unknown or non-understandable for the practitioners in Greece. And one very major, very big challenge, a major challenge, I would say, is the lengthy family reunion procedures within the EU member states. So we have many cases. Some of the child protection actors estimate that 30% of the total number are family reunion cases, meaning children that have nuclear families or extended families in other EU member states waiting to be united, to be unified. But these procedures, instead of taking 6 months, they might take more than 1.5 years to be completed. And there's always the problem with the funding. EU funds are provided to the Greek state, but for some reasons we have long bureaucratic procedures and delays, and then the implementation takes more than it should be. And this leads to loss of funds. So, as I mentioned before, the vicious cycle, unaccompanied children arriving in Greece, the numbers increase. The appropriate alternative care placements decrease, the children risks increase, then solutions on ad hoc basis are found, and the risk of homelessness and informal living care arrangements increase. So all these together, all these complex situations, together they create risks, protection risks for abuse, physical and psychological harm, sexual exploitation. UNHCR in Greece, we are happy to share with you the information that you probably are aware of, that we currently implement the big relocation scheme for unaccompanied children, and this will lead to a durable solution for 1,600 unaccompanied children, who will be relocated to EU member states, 12 EU member states, by the end of the year. The UNHCR is collaborating with EASO, the European Asylum Organization, for the implementation of best interest procedures for these 1,600 children. Also for the implementation of a temporary guardianship system specifically designed for the needs of the relocation exercise, and also for the transfer of the children from the islands to the mainland, which is not an easy task since the geography of Greece creates quite a few challenges with the transfer of people from the islands to the mainland. UNHCR in Greece is involved in the relocation scheme, especially and specifically for the best interest procedures, because we have had built quite much of experience since 2017 implementing the relocation scheme to the UK, the DABS scheme for 119 children, but also piloting the big European relocation scheme in April 2020, collaborating with the countries of Luxembourg and Germany, first for small groups of children, 12 for Luxembourg and 47 for Germany. So the lessons learned have been used for the initiation of the big relocation scheme that is running now since the 3rd of June. Since the 3rd of June, UNHCR and EASO caseworkers have completed more than 800 best interest assessments, and the first transfers to Finland, Germany, Lithuania, and France have taken place. The transfers and the interviews will continue until the total number of children are relocated. We also, as I mentioned, pilot some projects, pilot project on foster care, projects on supported independent living. We will very soon start distributing some cash assistance for children in the reception and identification centers with the supervision, of course, of child protection actors. We are conducting currently research for the homeless children in the urban settings of Athens and Thessaloniki in order to provide solutions for the holistic care of homeless children and provide also some suggestions for amendments in the legal framework that do not allow the protection of these children in the streets. We also, UNHCR also supports the national referral mechanism for the unaccompanied children by being present in the relevant ministries, providing case management teams on the 5 islands and the land border in all the reception and identification centers, providing case management teams, mobile ones in the urban settings, and always continue with advocacy on concrete areas where we see that there are weaknesses in the Greek context, meaning the age assessment and family links assessments for children in detention, the missing unaccompanied children, migrant and refugees, and the homeless unaccompanied children. UNHCR is also responsible for the national and regional coordination of child protection actors working in the specific context of refugee, asylum seeking, and migrant children. So this is the overview of the child protection challenges in the Greek context regarding refugee and migrant children. This is all from me, Heather.
Okay, thank you very much, Dora. Now I will turn it over to Yanis, who's our next speaker. One moment, please.
Okay, so hello to everybody. My name is Yannis Athanasopoulos. I'm a clinical psychologist and line supervisor in the hotlines of the Smile of the Child. I'm going to close the camera and share the desktop in order to present you what we have done with our colleagues. So, I'm going to give you an overview on how the Smile of the Child act to specific situation. It's like an introduction, and then my colleague Aggie is going to be more specific about the guidance notes for reporting missing refugee and migrant children. I'm very happy to share with you. I will try to keep it short, but I'm very happy to share with you how this organization was created. Who is the founder of the organization? The 10 years old Andrew Andreas, who was born on 1985 in a family with strong bonds. He was highly sensitive. His emotional intelligence was very high, and used his small power to offer love and smiles to everyone who was near him, and he was beloved by his classmates, friends, family, parents, and brother. It was a unique boy. Unfortunately, Andreas fell in 1994 And from the first time till the last moment, he faced his illness with lots of courage and dignity, continuing to offer strength and smiles. Andreas used to capture to write down in his personal diary his thoughts. So in November 1994, captured his vision in his personal diary. His wish was to found an organization so that all the children could have a smile. Poor children, children who have any food, children that need medical assistance or stay at hospitals, etc. Um, he expressed his wish in a very popular public TV show, and the contributors of the show embraced Andreas. And I have to say that the response of the show was really unexpected. In Greece, Cyprus, and all around the world, Greeks were moved and rushed to support Andreas' vision. In less than a month, Andreas passed away, having left behind his diary, his heritage to us, the smile of the child. So Mr. Kostas Yiannopoulos, father of the 10 years old Andreas, put all his efforts to create this organization. So 25 years later, and after a lot of work, we have a strong international cooperation with a lot of institutes, and we are members of the board in different areas. I will point out three of them. We are an official partner of the Civil Protection and Humanitarian Aid Operation. We are a member of the board of the European Federation of Missing and Exploited Children, the MCE. Also, we are a member of the board of directors of ICMEC, the International Center for Missing and Exploited Children, and member of Child Helpline International Foundation. What we have seen the last few years about the Greek context and the refugee crisis and the experience we had on the ground, we spotted out three things, three high-risk groups: unaccompanied minors, people with increased needs, and people with mental health issues. And when I say people, I mean refugees and minors without any I have to mention that the smile of the child is next to all children and take the same actions regardless of ethnicity and religion. So please let me say children and people and not refugees. Uh, the role of the smile of the child in this very hard refugee crisis in Greece was to support children with first necessity goods and food. We provide medical exams through our mobile medical unit. We did do a lot of transfers with our ambulances for newborns and children, including refugees. I mean, the public prosecutor a lot of times has ordered the smile of a child to do a transfer from one spot to another, maybe from a hotspot to an hospital. We do a lot of recreational activities. We are working into our info spots, info desks in the hotspots and relocation centers. So we use posters of children who go missing, I mean refugee children who go missing. We activate the Amber Alert Alas. I will come back to that later on. And we do a lot of psychosocial counseling to address issues of trauma, help integration in Attica and Thessaloniki, both individual and group sessions. So how this work took place? There are 12 centers of direct social intervention nationwide, and we have the three hot helplines for children: the National Helpline for Children, SOS 1056, the European Hotline for Children, 116000, the European Helpline for Children and Adolescents, 116111. The main goal is to provide assistance to children in need or at risk. I should say that we operate 24/7, 365 days per year nationwide, and the 7 call centers are interconnected as one, and that's very important. Every child and who calls, the call is for free, it's anonymous and confidential. We're available to children, parents, adults, educators and services, and other agencies and organizations. Our lines are characterized as emergency lines, and they are interconnected with the 112, the European emergency number of the Civil Protection Secretariat. If something goes wrong with our centers, there is a disaster recovery area in the International Airport of Athens, so that we can reassure that things will keep going and we can help children who are in need. Lines are connected with SAWA's helpline. It's the helpline of Palestine for an automatic connection and interpretation. So, into the topic, next to every missing child. We are next to all children victims of violence, children with health problems, and missing children. So, from our experience, we've noticed some things went wrong and still goes wrong. There is a delay in the reporting of the disappearances. There is a lack of clear responsibility and action from the stakeholders and actors, and there is a lack of immediate mobilization from the authorities due to wrong assessment. So the first minutes of a missing person, it's the most crucial minutes, and sometimes the smile of a child uh, take the information 10 days later or 1 month later about a refugee child. So this is a very big problem. There is a lack of certified and well-trained professional in the field to deal with the cases. The lack of proper shelter areas and child protections, and we work together with the UN Refugee Agency to find solutions. Um, I will keep going on in order not to spend more time. We work in we have two models, prevention, intervention. In the case of prevention, it's the line that I told you before, the European Helpline for Children and Adolescents. This helpline plays a crucial role in preventing cases of missing children. And why that? A lot of children, including refugees, are calling us and tell us that they are in need of something. They want to move illegally to another country. They want to put an end to their lives. So this line is responsible to take care of them, to inform the authorities, to take action exactly at the same time that we have this information. So it's one of the most important lines because a team of specialized psychologists are available 24/7 to provide support to every child. And the second one about prevention has to do that the Smile of the Child organizes on a daily basis visits to schools nationwide. There is a specialized team of psychologists carry out interactive workshops targeted to students, parents, teachers, and guardians to three topics: violence, missing children, but the most important, how to stop stereotyping, how to put an end to stereotypes. Children are children. There is no migrant or a refugee. That's political issues, and all the children have the same rights, and we have to treat them as all of our children, the Greek children, let's say. Um, I'm going to end uh, by by telling you about the intervention part, the European Hotline for Missing Children, 11000. The fact that the European hotline operates throughout Europe makes it a valuable tool to the process of providing support to children arriving in Greece as refugees and migrants. This need led the organization to establish a group of interpreters, mediators with Arab and Farsi knowledge, and in addition, the line and relative services provided were communicated through special brochures at the points of entry and residence of children, refugees, and migrants in Greece. I can say that we operate the Amber Alert LS. The Smile of the Child initiated the operation since 2007. I think that you are familiar with Amber Alert, but I have to say it's the national coordinating program of timely and accurate notification of citizens on cases of missing or abducted minors. We have made a lot of Amber Alerts for refugees and migrants. The Amber Alert is based on the provision of quick, accurate, and detailed information to citizens. And to achieve this, a number of factors, public, private, and voluntarily, are involved with the purpose to communicate the details. So imagine TV channels, radio spots, social media, Facebook posts, SMS, announcements on airports, monitors, metro stations, train stations, etc. Last but not least, we have a team, that's very important, the team for search and rescue with the participation of internationally certified volunteer dog team. So if a child goes missing, the dogs can take his smell and go to the area that he gone missing and try to find the child. In the terms of logistical and technical means, we have a lot of jeeps, ATV, motorbikes, ambulances, and mobile command center, and the crisis management unit. I have to say that in 2016, we were evaluated and accredited with a maximum score from the Missing Children Europe, among other nearly 20 hotlines in Europe. That was what I wanted to tell you. Thank you very much for your attention. I think some things are very important. And here now is Agi Xenaku, who is going to take the lead.
So, hello, everyone. I'm Maggie Xenaku. I'm a clinical health psychologist, and I'm a co-line supervisor in 3 Lines by the Smile of the Child. And I will take you through our guidance note for missing refugee and migrant child in Greece. So, considering all these problematics reporting missing refugee children and taking in mind the extremely dangerous situation these children are facing through the journey and while they try to relocate, the Smile of the Child organization, in close cooperation with UNHCR Greece, summarized and tried to improve the basic steps that have to be made and to make known the use of the national reporting mechanism for missing children in order to try and eliminate any delays in reporting migrant and refugee children to the police authorities. So, some basic steps that we just have in mind are as follows. So, the very, very important step is the immediate report to the competent authority of the missing child. I just want to make clear that we don't handle refugee and migrant child differently than Greek native children. All children are the same, and the reporting mechanism for missing children is exactly the same for any missing child. So, the disappearance of the child must be reported immediately to the competent authority by any person who is aware of the case, and that person could be their parents, or could be a person who holds locally the authorization for the care of the child, a local actor, an authorized representative, a guardian, a legal guardian of the child, or any person who is close to the child, like staff of the care arrangement, social worker, or psychologist, or relatives of the child, or siblings, uncles, anyone that is near and take notice of the child has gone missing. So, This person must immediately go to the nearest police station at any time, day or night, with no delay, and must have with him or her a recent photo of the child and a birth certificate. And if there's a lack of such documentation, the person must know the full name and surname of the child, the date of birth, and its nationality. After that, the missing child is recorded to the national databases, as well as the Schengen information system by the police authorities. So any information provided to the competent authority for the child is very useful and always very, very helpful. The reporting person should, where possible, provide information on the name of the guardian of the child and provide all possible information relevant to the disappearance of the child, including, not limited, that's just some stuff, the basic ones. Okay. First of all, the physical appearance, the basic characteristics of the child, like the hair color, the eye color, the height and weight, and if the child has any marks or specific characterized, like the clothes the child was last seen wearing, or even if it wears glasses, has tattoo or any other kind of marks. Further on, the family environment. Sorry. Okay. The family history of the child, if she has relatives in Greece, and if the child was in contact with any relatives abroad, and if, of course, has recently contacted them. If the child has a mobile phone or has any social media accounts, the language the child speaks, or if the child is under specific medication, facing any health or other issues, all this stuff must be reported and documented to the authorities in order to help the searches of the child. The child protection actors providing shelter to unaccompanied minors are requested with the approval of the competent public prosecutor to keep in their archives recent photos of the host child, in order, if the child goes missing, by saying recent, up to 6 months old, can provide a photo. A photo is a very unique and a very crucial document to have when you go to report a child. It is important that the disappearance is reported to the competent authority, even though if the person has minimal information about the child. That should not prohibit the reporting person from going to the nearest police station and report the disappearance instantly. The minimum information required to the police station for the disappearance are the name, of course, and this immediately will record the disappearance to the national database, as well as the Schengen information system. And in parallel, the reporting person must, if possible, inform the parents of the child or the person who is authorized to care for the child by the public prosecutor for minors about the disappearance. If the child is an unaccompanied minor, the competent public prosecutor for minors must immediately be notified, and the person, the actor, as guardian of the child, has to be informed by the reporting person about the disappearance. If it's not possible for the reporting person or the child protection actors to get in touch with the competent public prosecutor for minors, the police department, the police station must do this procedure and inform the public prosecutor immediately, even via phone. So the police officer will submit an internal notice of disappearance, and according to which all the police stations across Greece and Hellenic Coast Guard will be informed centrally. The central service of the Hellenic Police, the Subdivision of Fugitives and Missing Persons, Surveillance Files, and Identification Card Management, is responsible for recording missing persons and disappearance, both in national and international databases like the Schengen Information System. So the Hellenic Police informs the International Police Criminal Organization accordingly, who then sends an international police notice to other countries and police services if there are, of course, any incidents of the children have been gone or trafficking abroad. In case of an unaccompanied minor, that and the publicity, we need to publicize the photo or proceed to activation of a number alert. The reporting person has, of course, to provide the photo with the necessary information, and the competent public prosecutor has to give the order for such a publication or a number alert or activation. So the reporting person then contacts our organization at the European Hotline for Missing Children 116000 that we operate 24/7, 365 days per year, and it's free of charge, and reports the disappearance of the child. Then the smile of the child, we just want to make it clear, we're not substitute the police department or the police researches, but we cooperate closely with the police. We have an MOU with them, and we act as an interlocutor and facilitator of the entire process. In any way, the reporting person should address our organization in case of facing any difficulty or challenge in the process of reporting the disappearance of a missing child. Even though if there is a need of an interpreter for reporting the child. So the approval for the specific publication of personal data of the child on the internet, or the activation of Amber Alerts provided by the public prosecutor, as we have already said, with the coordination of the Hellenic Police Station and the Subdivision of Fugitive and Missing Persons, who is responsible for this investigation. And they take always in consideration the specific circumstance of the case. And we do not want in any case to put the child's life in more risk by publicating their personal data and photo. So they are guiding us through this process, and if the publication is really needed. Then the smile of the child proceeds to the necessary actions, like the publicity of the photo, the activation of Amber Alert, the last. And in some cases, we mobilize our search and rescue team, Thanasis Makris, and according to the prosecutor's order, and always with cooperation with the police authorities. Now, if the child returns to the care arrangement where previously was hosted, it needs to be cancelled by special and have special support by the protection actor in charge. Our organization, the Smile of the Child, also provides counseling to the family of the child upon his or her return. So I just want to make clear that we can proceed to the publication of the children photo if the parents or the guardians are here in Greece. They can authorize us to proceed to the publication. That was just a clarification. The prosecutor for minors only intervene in the case of unaccompanied minors. So thank for your attention. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Aggie, and to all of our speakers today for sharing this important information. I'm going to take the screen back. One moment, please. And then I do have some questions from the audience I'd like to ask. Okay. So this question is probably more for Yanis or Aggie. One attendee is asking if reporting is mandatory in Greece and for whom?
Sorry, Dora. If it's mandatory when a child goes missing, I'm
Yes.
not. Yes, it's mandatory. Yes,
Okay.
and
So is
by anyone who is close to the child, preferably by their guardians or their legal actors. But if there are not such person near the child, because they are refugees and unaccompanied minors, anyone that takes notice of the child has gone missing must report it immediately to the authorities.
okay.
Can I add to that, Heather?
Yes.
This is Dora. I need to clarify that it might be mandatory for the guardian of the unaccompanied child. However, according to the law, the guardian is the public prosecutor for minors, who in practice is responsible, each one of them may be responsible for hundreds of children. So it means that the public prosecutor does not have the clear picture of what is going on in the life of the child. And this is why we end up having children going missing without being reported. We had a roundtable organized with the Child Protection Working Group that we are chairing, and also the Smile of the Child, to alert the competent authorities and to agree that the existing reporting mechanism should be utilized by the state competent authorities as well. And this is why we are joining our efforts to make them understand that this is something really important that needs to take place as soon as possible. We also had some misconceptions of the child protection actors, meaning NGOs, civil society, that are involved in this particular context of refugee and migrant children. Most of the child protection actors, for some reason, they thought they should wait for 1 or 2 or even 3 days before reporting the missing children, the children going missing from their shelters. So these misconceptions need to be dissolved, and we need to agree all together and to raise awareness on using the existing mechanism and make the most of it. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes. And do you all find that the authorities are supportive of these measures?
I think they are.
Sometimes, yes.
Yeah,
Most,
I think yeah. What we have, I mean, what they also see and what we have seen is what you mentioned in the introduction for this webinar, that children go missing without being reported. However, after the roundtable in November 2019, and after the issuance of this guidance note, we see that more and more children are being reported on the islands by the competent state authority, which is the Reception and Identification Service. And this is an improvement. It doesn't mean that we are solving all the problems. We will see in the end of the year whether we have enough numbers of unaccompanied children going missing reported. Because, for example, last year, the number of unaccompanied children going missing was very, very low. Maybe the colleagues from the Smile of the Child can share with us those figures, but the number was not at all reflecting the reality in the field.
Okay, and I have to mention that sometimes the procedure is not well known from some police departments, but recently we had a strong cooperation with the authorities and more specifically with the subvision of missing people. So we are trying to spread the ideas and the procedure all over Greece in order to find the best for the children.
Okay, thank you. Dora, this question is for you. In your presentation, you talked about community-based protection mechanisms and difficulty establishing those. And one attendee is asking if you could explain what you mean by community-based protection mechanisms and why it's difficult to establish them.
Right. This is a concept very much developed by UNHCR and other actors in working in the field of refugee and migration. Community-based mechanisms are the supportive networks created by the community itself, the refugee community, to include but also to support their own people in many areas, like, for example, child protection, education, provision and meeting the basic needs, provision of goods in order to meet the basic needs, and many other like health, mental health areas. This means that the refugees themselves or the migrants themselves are mobilized and they use their own skills in order to assist their own people. And the role of UNHCR there is to encourage, to build their capacity and to support them in any way possible to meet the needs of the community, of their own people. It is difficult to be used in Greece, first of all, because the concept itself has not been used extensively. And UNHCR has been trying to raise awareness on this concept during the last 4 to 5 years after the refugee crisis in 2015 and 16. The particular context of Greece is also unique because the numbers of refugees who have crossed Turkey, Greece, in order to reach the other European states have been, the numbers have been very big, and the situation has been always very fluid. Greece has been a transit country. The population has been and is until today also very much on the move. So this does not facilitate the establishment of community-based mechanisms because the community has to have roots in order to build its own systems and assist its own people. And most of the refugees and migrants do not get the time to have these roots in our country. Their hope and dream is to go to another EU member state. That's in brief the explanation.
Okay.
I hope this was helpful.
Yes, thank you. And this is a little bit related. I think this will be our last question today. This attendee is asking, does UNHCR or Smile of the Child have any programs for long-term integration of unaccompanied children into Greece? For example, children that don't have any family ties in Europe.
Yes, from UNHCR side, we collaborate a lot with the Ministry of Education and UNICEF and other actors in order to provide opportunities for children to get into the educational system and in this way to have chances to be integrated. We also have projects for the aged out and unaccompanied children who are in great need of being assisted, meaning the 18 plus. In Greece, we don't have a system, a standard system for their support, unfortunately, so far. We are advocating for this, however, And we are working on a pilot project to provide to them some opportunities for employability, their own resources for living, also vocational training opportunities and educational opportunities. With this new government that we have since August 2019, it seems that we have more opportunities to discuss on integration issues. At the same time, there are many challenges since it is considered that Greece cannot assimilate all these numbers of refugees and migrants come into the Greek territory. And this is why always the UN agencies and child protection actors have been advocating for the EU member states, the other EU member states, to share this responsibility. Greece is the border of Europe, and this is why, also being the transit country, we are the ones welcoming all these big numbers of refugees and migrants. However, the country does not have the capacity to deal with these numbers. And this is why advocacy has focused also, but not only, on the sharing of this responsibility and sharing the numbers of refugees and migrants with other countries. But at the same time, Greece has also to build a system for the integration of these people in the country, for the ones that stay here. That's all from my side, Heather.
Okay, thank you. Yanis or Aggie, do you have anything to add?
Yes, we want to add something. Our doctors do weekly visits to migrant children who have serious health issues in order to try to provide them with help. And of course, we're next to all children victims of violence. I mean the migrants that they are face violence, and children living in poverty. So we as Aggie said before,
we support them with their everyday needs. Try to support as many as possible.
Like clothing, food, etc.
And dealing with their health issues.
Yes, okay. Thank you so much. And thank you for all that work that you are doing. I think that's it for our questions today. So I would like to thank our speakers again for sharing this important information to us and for our audience for sharing your questions. If you have a question that we did not ask, please contact us at resources@ispcan.org and we will try to get your question answered. And that email address will be available on one of our last slides here. So I would just like to conclude by inviting everyone to become a member of ISPCAN if you're not already, so that we can continue having webinars like these. Our member benefits include a subscription to our monthly research journal, access to our past webinars and other educational resources, the ISPCAN child abuse screening tools, and discounts to our congresses, which will resume in 2021. We offer several membership levels, including an associate membership, which is $35 a year. We also would like to invite you to visit our COVID-19 resources page for a variety of resources for professionals, parents, and children. You'll also find information on our upcoming webinars. Our next one is June 27th with World Vision International, who will discuss their new report on the increased risk of violence to children during lockdown and beyond. To learn more about ISPCAN, please visit us at ispcan.org. A recording of today's webinar and the slides will be posted on our website shortly. And again, if you have any questions or comments, please contact us at resources@ispcan.org. Thank you all again for joining us today. Please stay safe and healthy wherever you are, and have a good day or night wherever you are. Thank you, Aggie, Dora, and Yanis.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Heather. Thank you to all. Take
Thank
care.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.